but you're not at all in the stage musical, in my opinion. It's a sort of like, ugh. It's just, again, for the stage, it may work, but for a movie, you have to have these relationships, or the viewer will not be bought in, because there's movies have atmosphere, but not nearly in the same way that the stage does. In movies, there need a lot of things. I don't want to say this wrong. In movies, depend much more on writing than the stage does, in my opinion. In the stage, something can be bad, but you can still see it because the atmosphere, if you throw $1 million at the stage and you make a lot of really cool set pieces and scenery, but you've got a horrible script, it could still be a very big success because the atmosphere. In a movie, you throw, for a movie, $10 million, and they make really cool sets and, a lot of cool visuals, but the story's not good, usually the movie ends up being crap. I think I'm not really wording it that well, but I don't even remember where I was going with this. I think I was talking about how, darn me and my, comparisons. I think you see my point, though. The movie will be much more dependent on the relationships and the pace of the story. In the stage musical, the music was so good, none of that really mattered as much. So, that's why it's going to suffer. And you're going to see these people who were fans of the musical suddenly seeing it in a theater where, different things were expected. And they're going to be disappointed because it's got the music, but it can't possibly work as a movie, I don't feel. Not fully. I mean, it can be a good movie, of course, but it can't be a fantastic movie because the story's not allowed to develop fully, and the characters aren't allowed to either. And it's going to be moving so dang fast because, the stage musical never, ever stopped. It just kept on and kept on going. And I'll bet there are going to be people who love the stage musical complain about that. I'm going to read reviews after. I'm willing to bet that's going to be a big complaint. And if you've seen the movie, I'll bet that's a complaint of yours. It did not stop. Nothing was really fleshed out as much. With that being said, I think it's going to have a great atmosphere. I'm going to say that. Look at the sets of the movie. Look at the clips of the movie. I've seen those. Those are very good. But I thought when I heard it was a musical, I said, I'm going to like the music, but I'm going to love it even more for the story. That's what's going to give it the 10. I thought this was going to be a masterpiece. Incredible experience. But then I experienced the musical, and I feel like it's lacking in story and development, which for the stage it may be okay, but again, for a movie, those things are drastically important, and if you're lacking in it, the movie is going to suffer as a whole. I think I kind of got my point across of what I wanted to make this video about. I'm going to see the movie in the next few days, and I know I'm not going to hate it. And I know I'm going to walk out of there saying it was good. But it's not going to be the masterpiece, Oscar-sweeping movie that I thought it was originally going to be. Just because of the issues I told you about. It couldn't possibly be, in my opinion. But there's a way it can be. There's an excellent, excellent way it can be. There are two ways you can make Les Miserables where it would be extremely, extremely good. Now, there's one that I feel may be actually the most realistic. And then there's another which I don't really see happening, but it may be the better way. Now, I think what actually may be the most realistic way of doing it, and probably with the price and just with the overall way of delivering it, would make it a miniseries. I said it needs to be about 6 hours long with the music. Don't include the music necessarily. I mean, I guess you can, but a miniseries as a musical probably wouldn't go nearly as well, I don't think, with Les Mis, which is such a heavily Les Miserables is so heavily influenced on the story. And that's another reason I think the musical didn't hit home. But I know as soon as I finish this video, I'm going to remember something I should have said. But Les Miserables is so story-driven that I feel like a miniseries would be a good job at doing that. And I said it should be about 6 or 7 hours. Miniseries are at least that, and they can also be a lot longer. So why not do that? Split it up into parts and just deliver it. And speaking of splitting up into parts, what I'd really like to see, why don't they make Les Miserables into a major movie trilogy, like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit? The Hobbit's stupid, by the way. I'll get into that later. Actually, I can do a Let's Talk The Hobbit, I guess. Yeah. I just figured out the topic of my next Let's Talk, which will probably be a series I'm due from now on covering movies that are coming out, but I'm kind of going off topic. Make it into a trilogy. I really thought this out a whole lot, but let me think. Part 1, now they could be like Lord of the Rings, roughly 2.5 hours apart. I think that'd be a good job of delivering it. Part 1 could be up until Fantine's death. Part 2 can be up to, I don't know, around the time the rebellion begins. And Part 3 can be the rest. Just about, I think. That'd be really good. You know, make it all at once. Release it once a year. And if you got a better way to make it, I think you should leave it in the comments if you want. I'm not gonna be one of those idiots to say, comment, rate, subscribe. Leave a comment about what your favorite Les Mis is. I'm not doing that, no. But if you want to leave a comment, you can tell me how I could do this best. But I think making it into a movie trilogy with a really big budget is the best way to do it. I mean, let's be honest. Plenty of time to flesh out the story. Plenty of time to develop the characters. Plenty of time to include all those little backstories that the 98 version couldn't do. My God, I think this would be genius. If I ever heard they're making a movie trilogy of Les Miserables, I would cry. I think it would be fantastic. Again, I don't see it happening anytime soon because, especially since this Les Miserables was so hyped up, no one's gonna want to tackle it anytime soon. I don't see. I mean, I'm talking like next 10 years or so. But 10 years from now, if I heard they're gonna make a 3-part Les Miserables movie, I think that's perfect, guys. I think that would allow the characters to flesh out, the story to develop perfectly, to include everything that Les Miserables has, well, that matters, and not necessarily feel like it's jumping around because you're going to have plenty of time to do it, and it's split into parts. That's the thing about it. If it was just one movie and you included all this, you feel like you're skipping around too much. Sort of like the stage musical, but not to a huge extent. I just didn't feel like they gave you enough, I didn't feel like they gave you enough story, and they did skip around a little bit, but, if they had included more, then I would have forgiven it, and that's the thing. You've got about 7.5 hours it would be, if they were all 2.5 hours apiece exactly. They could go into detail, about each part, and it would make sense, because it's like one movie, and you're going into detail about one movie. But really, it's 3 movies, you see what I'm saying? So I think making it a 3-part movie trilogy would be the best way to do it. And guess what? If you get the right talent behind it, I think this would go down as the definitive Les Miserables. It would be considered the de facto one. It would be the best praised. It would be the most faithful if they wanted to make it that. And it'd be realistic. They have plenty of time to do it. You have plenty of time to be faithful and include everything. And that's what I think they should do. Of course, that's just me. Again, this is not a rant on the stage musical. I thought it was good, but I just don't think it's the best way to adapt Les Mis as a movie, because it's such a heavily story and character-driven novel. And again, I'm going to get more into detail about some of these thoughts actually in the 98 review. I just didn't want to include too much. But there are different ideas, and if you want to see more about me talking about this, watch the 98 review, because that's not exclusively on that movie. It is supposed to be, but it's also going to include stuff that I wanted to put on here that I'm leaving out, just because it relates to that more. Anyway, this has been Vinny Critic. Hope you enjoyed.